You're listening to Live and On Board with Tony Milazzo.
Hi, this is Tony Milazzo, and we are live and on board in Marina del Rey, California, on board Notte. And my guest today is Steve Michael Freeman. How are you, Steve?
Doing all right. Doing all right, Tony. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. It's storming out there. I'm sure you guys can hear that a little bit in the background. We have high winds. Everything's rattling. We're not going to leave the dock today. This keeps happening on this show. The weather just never goes with us.
Well, that's what happens when you do a show from a boat in the marina. And am I looking at the camera?
No, there's no camera.
There's no camera. I love that there's no camera.
Yeah, this is an audio podcast.
I like that it's an audio podcast because you do not want to see my face. That is not something you want to say. As an addendum, though, I should point out that I go by Steve Freeman, the Michael part, although it's a fine middle name. I usually don't go by it. I've thought about doing the whole Steve Michael Freeman, or it would be Stephen Michael Freeman, which sounds much more
right.
Hollywood,
I like
think.
Steve Freeman.
Steve Freeman is really the name. That's what I go by. Steve Freeman, it's a lot of the long E sound there, and it's just pleasing to hear. I love my name. Not really that much.
Well, once we're on your name, we probably should start right from the beginning with your parents and where you're from.
Yeah. Well, I am one of the few people who actually born and raised in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in Mar Vista, the part of West LA that is sort of east of Venice, north, or rather southeast of Santa Monica, northwest of Culver City.
Right.
And
that's very rare, being a native. There's not too many natives.
well, yeah, there aren't too many natives who are in the business. There are a lot of natives, but they usually end up not being in the business. LA is where people come from all over the country, dare I say all over the world, to recreate themselves, invent themselves to sort of justify their social ineptitude, I think. And, it's the melting pot for the insecure, really, I think is what
basically all the misfits that are thrown out of their family come here.
Yeah, like yourself. Yeah. And, no, it was a fine place to grow up when I did, many, many, many moons ago. I think they called it the 70s. Although, if you could see my face, you'd see I don't look a day older than
29.
29.
Right.
My dad actually had a boat, a P-28 sailboat right here in this marina, right here in Fiji Marina, and we spent a lot of long, boring days, my brother and I, who's 13 months older than me, on the boat while my dad worked on the boat, and we'd sail around the harbor, sail into, a little bit, on the way to Catalina. We'd fish off the docks here, and I think I caught a rock cod once, using a mussel as bait.
Was your dad a racer with a P-28?
Yeah, he raced that thing. He raced to Catalina all the time, and
right.
I think one time he raced to Honolulu. The boat was called the Honolulu.
Oh, great.
I don't know what became of it.
Good name.
And we were members of. My dad was a member of the Pacific Mariners Yacht Club.
Right here.
Right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should even discuss that. I met Steve at the world famous Comedy Store on Sunset Strip. We were doing a show together. Both doing stand-up, and he was coming back to Mar Vista. I was coming back to Marina del Rey, and I asked him for a lift. He gave it to me, nice guy that he is. I don't know if I would have done the same, some crazy comic, get in his car. Well, probably would have left me there. But Steve gave me a ride back. I said, let me buy you a beer. We go in Pacific Mariners Yacht Club, and... you had a flashback or something there.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few yacht clubs here in the marina. I don't know exactly how many there are, but the name sounded familiar. We're talking the late 60s, early 70s was the last time I was in that yacht club.
So it looked quite different. I know it.
But it looked familiar enough to know that I knew damn well where I was.
Right.
As a kid running back and forth when my dad would have one beer. My dad was never a big beer drinker, but he'd have one beer with his fellow yachtsmen. As my brother and I ran, and I would listen to the Dodger game on my transistor radio, and it all came back to me. So it was very, actually there was a poignant moment because unfortunately I lost my dad in 2010 to cancer. He was 82, and he was still sailing with a friend on weekends. Not his boat. He had to sell his boat many years ago, but he would sail with on his friend's boat, and he would play golf twice a week. He ran a ham radio net. He was a very active, very lucid man, and it was unfair and unfortunate the way the cancer suddenly showed up and took him in 8 months.
Right.
So it brought back very nice memories of, my dad as a vital sailor in his, my God, what was he, in his early 40s, I guess, when he had the boat.
Right. And that was Lee Freeman, correct?
His name was Lee Freeman.
Yes.
Lee Ivan Freeman, whose parents were from Russia, the old country. In fact, I have both my grandmas were named Ida. A couple of Idas, yeah, yeah.
So you're Russian?
I'm what you call a Jew.
Yeah.
A Russian Jew, or otherwise known as an Ashkenazi Jew. Mm-hmm. The Ashkenazi Jews there was a National Geographic special on us. We are meat eaters, but we will feed occasionally off the foliage in the area, and we are sometimes nocturnal. Although, I'm not a religious person. I don't practice any particular religion. I am proud of the Jewish heritages. Not happy with the whole Nazi thing. Still a little upset with that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Don't like the swastika.
Sure.
But other than that, I guess I would be sort of a self-hating, agnostic, proud Ashkenazi Jew.
All right.
Yeah. And you're obviously Jewish. Milazzo.
Yeah, sure.
Milazzo.
Yeah, Milazzo is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could pass as a Jew. I'm Italian. Italians could always, we hang... And all the Jews always have their token Italian right next to them.
Exactly. Well, the Jews and the Italians are very similar. And now, by virtue of the fact that and this could be a complete misnomer on my part, but Tony, by virtue of the fact that your name ends with an O, does one then assume that you are a Southern Italian, Sicilian, perhaps?
Southern Italian.
Southern Italian, yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit dark, so I'd say Sicily.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you something, it's, I gotta tell you, I've worked for a lot of people, it's always nice if you could, just make a couple calls and kind of get things taken care of, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
There are certain people, I'd just like to be able to make a couple calls, but I don't have that resource, so. I'm
actually from Milazzo. So my last name is actually a port.
Well, there you go. Hence your affinity for
the sea.
The sea.
Yeah. And that's how I came up with the show, Live and On Board. I have a passion for the sea and a passion for great talent. And Steve is a very talented guy.
Well,
so
thank you very much.
Let's talk about the talent. Let's talk about what he does. We haven't mentioned that yet. Didn't mention it on the opening of the show. But Steve is a writer besides being a comic and out testing his material and what he writes. And I guess we'll let you tell everybody some of your favorite things or what you're proud of in your writing.
Well, that's a pretty good question. I'm proud of the paycheck that I get for the most part every week.
That's always good.
Currently, I write on a Disney sitcom, and one of the things that's great about writing for kids is it's just the kids just go apeshit crazy nuts, and they are so happy to be there. They love the show so much. It's a Disney sitcom that's doing very well, and we're about to go into our third season. So there's a lot of gratification. It's different than writing for adults. The humor, of course, is somewhat has to be kid friendly. You can't say the word, for instance, you can't say the word allergy in a script.
Really?
You cannot use the word allergy because you don't want to bring up. A lot of kids have allergies. They're sensitive about it. So S&P is pretty insane.
Right.
Is
it all right to mention the name of the show?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. The show is called Austin and Alley.
Right.
And we're entering into our third season, and our ratings are excellent. We're doing very well on the network. And the 4 kids that I write for, are brilliant kids, and they're also great kids, and that's really the important part. They have great parents, and so far, so good. There's no loss of humility. There are no big heads. They're just handling it really, really well.
Right.
Um,
How many episodes? This show's been on for a couple of seasons.
well, first season, I think we had 18, and the second season, 26. Hopefully we'll get 26 in the third season. And the other writers are very talented. We work really hard, and it's been a nice run, and hopefully we can last, third season, maybe even a fourth. We're not sure really. Disney tends to do about 3 seasons on successful shows. Sometimes they'll do 4, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, good luck with that. We all know the steady paycheck as a creative and an artist
Right.
is key, getting paid for your work. Also writing, you wrote for Ferguson for a little while, didn't you? For
No, I was up.
Late Show?
I was up for the Ferguson show, which is why I do stand-up comedy. Why I started doing stand-up, because I'd worked in a lot of writers' rooms, Comedy Central, and for FX, where there were just a lot of stand-up comics, and executives from networks would come and see these comics and basically, give them writing jobs. Maybe they didn't even have a good spec sitcom to submit. Maybe they weren't even primarily writers, but because they knew they wrote their own material and they were funny, they would hire these guys. And, so I never really wanted to go on tour. I never really wanted to work, per se, as a stand-up comic. But I did want to continue to get writing work. I thought that it would serve 2 purposes. One, it would continue to hone my comedy writing skills, and number 2, someone would see me and maybe I'd be up for a job. And so, yeah, I was up for Craig Ferguson for a short period of time. I think they were going to either hire another writer or take a trip to Europe. And that season, Craig Ferguson went to Europe.
I remember that.
Yeah, but it would have been a good gig. I've done a lot of work for Comedy Central, Spike. I used to write on a animated sitcom that very few people remember called Stripperella, which was Pamela Anderson as an animated stripper / superhero secret agent. And it was a lot of fun to write. So, yeah, it's I'm very diverse. I feel like I could write pretty much anything except maybe hour drama. I'm not really like an hour cop drama. I don't see myself doing hour cop dramas anytime soon. Unless someone said, "Hey, you want this job on this network hour cop drama?" and I'd probably take it because it pays well.
Right.
I'm in it for the money, Tony.
Oh yeah, aren't we all?
I'm kidding. I love what I do, and I do have pieces that I'm passionate about. There are a couple pilots that when I'm able to, I'm going to try to push, and work on a couple possible films right now. One of them is a comedy about bodybuilders. So we're hoping that we can get that off the ground, and so hopefully the idea in this business is to keep working and to keep selling, and if you can do that, you'll do pretty well. You have to be kind of thick-skinned, though, as most people will tell you.
Yes. So what's your favorite stuff to write of all your projects that you're writing? What's your favorite stuff? It's still comedy?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely it's comedy. It's not necessarily it's a word that's frowned upon, but I do like dramedy. I do like that kind of dark comedy. I like a lot of the British comedies that are on HBO. I loved Extras with Ricky Gervais. I love Episodes. I like the original Office and the American version of The Office. And then some of the BBC sitcoms that no one's ever heard of, like Black Books, which I recommend everybody, Netflix. The 3 seasons of Black Books was a multicam sitcom. It was about a drunk guy who owned a bookstore in, I believe, in London. And it was a broad comedy, but it was brilliant. So I have a lot of different influences, but it's not just TV, it's film also. My company is called Another Shrubbery Productions, based on a scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is my favorite film of all time.
Monty Python, wow. Yeah, good stuff. I grew up on Monty Python. That's some funny stuff.
Yeah, well, some of it's silly. Some of it, some of it is what they call evergreen. It's funny forever, and some of it, maybe doesn't hold up as well now. But they were brilliant, and they were heroes of mine.
What else? Early TV stuff from a kid that inspired you, influenced you, and made you say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. What I want to do."
Well, strangely enough, I think the reason I'm in a creative field, and it's not even, my humor is a lot more edgy than this, but the reason I think I'm in a creative field is because I was a huge fan of Peanuts, the comic strip, and Charles Schulz. I felt that when I was a kid growing up and you're reading Peanuts, and sometimes, the household was a little tumultuous, so it was an escape for me. And there was something just very relatable for me and the Peanuts characters and Charles Schulz's understanding of the human condition through his characters, through kids. And I wanted to draw. I drew pretty well, and I wanted to, at a young age, to be a cartoonist like Charles Schulz, have my own comic strip. Eventually, that switched over to writing, to creative writing, and eventually comedy writing. But I will have always been and will always be a fan of the comic strip, particularly Peanuts.
Yeah.
As far as TV and film is concerned, I loved the early broad anarchical comedies like Green Acres. A lot of people don't realize how strange Green Acres was, how they would incorporate the actual credits of the show into the show itself.
Right.
For instance, black background, Oliver's snoring, the couple's in bed, Oliver and Lisa. It says executive producer Paul Henning across the screen, and then suddenly, Oliver, look, there are names in the dark. Lisa, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Executive producer Paul Henning. It was brilliant to me. I thought breaking the fourth wall like that.
Yeah.
The original Dick Van Dyke Show, the Andy Griffith Show, the 5 years Don Knotts was on the show, Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart. These were all influences of mine.
Great shows. That was some time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, it's, I actually have a feeling, I have a top 20 sitcoms of all time, but they're, you have to delineate them into network sitcoms versus what, if it's an HBO sitcom, you might want to put that in there, but they could get away with murder compared to what the limitations were for, for a primetime network sitcom, and
Right.
really still are. So I have different categories, but I'm a big fan of the sitcom, both single cam and multicam.
Yeah.
And, of course, films like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the Mel Brooks films, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, the Abrams Zucker films, that kind of silliness. I loved, both Airplanes and Top Secret was brilliant. So these are all influences of mine. I'd say my humor is sort of an amalgam, if you will.
Yeah. Very similar to mine.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks and Three's Company and just some of the greatest.
Yeah.
We lived during a great period for comedy.
Yeah, we really did. Yeah, I have to agree with that.
Today, well, we're coming back with the sitcoms a little bit, but, all that reality TV for a while, they eliminated sitcoms. I think at one point we only had 8 sitcoms on the air, where years ago we would have, 20 to 45 sitcoms.
Yeah, the sitcom's making a bit of a comeback, and, I'm someone who's optioned reality, worked on reality TV. Anybody who thinks that reality shows don't have writers are mistaken.
Yeah, they think they're real.
We might be called something else. But it's the lowest, common denominator of humankind, and people seem to like that. I think stupid and irresponsible is the new cool as a result, partly due to reality TV. Not that all reality TV is bad, and it's a loose term and a very wide genre. But there are some really good sitcoms out right now. The Middle, Suburgatory, The Big Bang Theory is still around. Modern Family is, in my opinion, the best network sitcom and has been for some time. It's extremely well written.
Good show.
Great ensemble cast. So both multicam and single cam. And then, of course, there are the the cable sitcoms, like episodes, like I'd mentioned, Eastbound and Down. I'm not sure if that's still around, but there are, and Curb Your Enthusiasm will certainly come back, I think, for another season. So
great show.
There are some great linear scripted shows around. Although Curb, I guess, is mostly loosely written and improv, was my understanding. Curb.
Now, is there a particular person also that is a writer and maybe even writer comic that has inspired you too? Or?
Yeah, you're always inspired, and I obviously those guys from Monty Python, Steve Martin was a big influence. Yeah, very, very much a genius. The SNL guys that went on to do other things were big influences as well. Chevy Chase, Aykroyd, and Bill Murray. And then there are the Jerry Seinfeld, I think, was a huge influence. I think Seinfeld was the best network sitcom of all time for many reasons. One, it was character-based, not so much scenario-based. A lot of people will come up to me because, they and with their pilots, and it's always, the first thing they always talk about when I ask them what it's about is the scenario. Well, it's about people who do this, or this kind of office, or that kind of office. And that really doesn't tell me anything, because it just tells me what the setting is, not so much who the characters are or what it's really about. And so if a good character-based sitcom, regardless of the scenario, regardless of what they do for a living, is always, I think, the way to go. And the scenario is more or less of a backdrop. But there are a lot of, I think anybody who I've seen over the last 30 years and liked and respected has been an influence.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of those people.
It's all about the ensemble cast. I mean, shows like, I used to love Taxi. A lot of big names came out of that show too later.
Yeah, Taxi is number 3 or 4 in my top 20 of all time.
It was the ensemble cast. Same thing with Cheers. Same thing with even Three's Company. I mean, it wasn't. There probably was only about 9 of them or 8 of them.
Right. A show like Taxi is a good example, because how much of it was really about driving a taxi versus just a place for these characters to be together and hang out at different hours of the day. It has one of probably the top 2 or 3 sitcom scenes in the history of sitcom. And a lot of people who know the show know exactly the scene I'm talking about. It's when Jim Ignatowski was taking the driver's test.
Christopher Lloyd.
And Christopher Lloyd and was asking what a yellow light means. And Tony Danza was, I believe it was Danza, might have been the other guy, was telling him to slow down, and so he said, "What does a yellow light mean? Slow down." What does? Anyway, it's one of the greatest scenes, I think, in the history of sitcoms, and the cast was amazing. Cheers. Again, it was a bar. There was a little bit more bartending in Cheers, and there was taxi talk in Taxi, but again, a character-based ensemble cast, brilliant show. David Lloyd was, who I waited on back in the day, was one of the guys behind Cheers, and just an amazing show. Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, great ensemble cast.
That's key.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Key. The setup, the situation, where are they, who are they, and having a really good group of actors, ensemble cast. I'm a theater guy, so I come from that no matter what. It's all about your ensemble cast.
And from a writer's standpoint, I mean, obviously, I'm always going to, from the whoever creates the show, if you're creating it with characters in mind, and maybe you might have 1 or 2 actors in mind as one or more of the leads, it really is writing with character in mind and not so much scenario.
Right.
And I think that's a mistake a lot of new writers and young writers make. And, a lot of people are afraid to get up on stage and do stand-up. As you well know, Tony, you hear people come up to you and go, how do you do that? How do you do that? Mm-hmm. And, I don't care about that. But as far as writing, I watch a lot of TV. I see a lot of movies. I could do that. And it's always about them and usually what job they're in. People come up to me and they'll go, "Hey, I want you to read the script I'm writing." I go, "Well, okay, what's it about?" And it's, "Well, it's kind of about me and my life and what I do for a living." I go, "Oh, okay. How far along are you?" So, "Well, I'm at to the point where I call you." So they write in real time, and it's a strange thing because, and in no way would I want to sound arrogant. I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do for a living. But, if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to school. You got to study hard. You got to do well. And then you got to get into medical school where you have to study hard and do well. And then you got to do an internship and a residency. But I don't, perform an appendectomy on some random guy and then call up some doctor and go, "Hey, you want to see how I did? I think you can't, so it's this thing that a lot of people feel, they're able to do, and some of them are and some of them aren't.
Yeah. So what do you think's next for you? Something you haven't done? Any new goals? What do you have in mind? What do you want to do next?
Well, yeah, what's next for me probably be unemployment and poverty, but if it's not, no, if you never know in this business, you never know. It's a precarious business.
That's after every gig you're unemployed and poverty,
I just want to keep working, man.
So you're okay. But you're just going to stay right where you are. You're good. You're fine with the stand-up writing.
The stand-up I do is for fun, and then when we're in production, I kind of have to stop doing it because, we're very rarely out of the writer's room in time for me to get to a gig. When we start shooting the show, we have pretty late hours. But, there are a couple, like I said, there are a couple pilots that, I would love to sell. There are, a couple films. I just want to keep writing and eventually get to a point where I'm able to write pretty much what I want to write and have a good shot at selling that material. And, I have sold a few pilots in the past. They were strong, but they never made it to series. In fact, only one or two of them have actually been produced to pilot form. But there were a couple that I really was proud of, and I really cared a lot about. And strangely enough, they were all animated.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one was a feature, and two were one was a kids cartoon, and the other was an animated sitcom starring Tommy Lee called The Life and Times of Jimmy Jacks.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. We sold it to Fox.
Well, I do voiceovers.
Yeah.
So don't forget me.
Yeah, I'll never, next time I sell anything that needs, I will keep you in mind.
Are we going to see you in front of the camera at some point? Are you going to jump up and be like, "I'm an actor now too"?
No, I'm not really that guy. I used to be a good-looking guy, man. I don't like what I see when I look in the mirror now. I'm so butt ugly now. I just don't think I could be in front of the camera, but...
Well, when you're ugly, you do what I do.
Yeah.
We're character actors.
Yeah, not so much.
Not so much, huh?
But,
well, that's good.
Less
competition. These guys jumping in front of the camera thinking they're actors take me out of work,
I used to write on a Nickelodeon sketch comedy show called All That. And it was a very popular show, and they would use the writers to be in sketches a lot because they were cheap. And they won't let you do that at Disney. So I was on TV a lot in the 90s in sketches on All That. I wrote on a show for FX called The X Show, which was FX's answer to Comedy Central's The Man Show. And I appeared as the Marquis de Sade in one, and that was shot live. So that's when I realized I could do stand-up because I wasn't nervous at all, wearing a big giant powdered wig, playing the Marquis de Sade, doing one of those fake British for French accents. Yeah. So... yeah, I don't mind being in front of the camera so much, but it's not something I'm pursuing. Of course, if somebody offered, remember, I'm all about money. So if somebody, yeah,
aren't we all?
I've had 2 bankruptcies, so in my in the last 20 years. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, we don't want a third.
Yeah, we don't want that third bankruptcy.
No.
Yeah.
This might come from left field, but If you could change something, maybe this is too heavy, but if you could change something or several things, whether it is through your work or on the planet, or maybe you have some sort of pet peeve, what would you change? What would you do?
Just people who turn left when they don't really have to, holding up an entire boulevard of traffic. I think not enough people realize if you turn right and then double back, I mean, it's just going to be so much easier for everybody.
On the whole planet?
Yeah, on the whole planet. I just don't understand why people insist on turning left. And also, gardeners. Gardeners drive really slow. I don't know what it is about having a freaking rake in the back of your truck that makes you drive 15 miles an hour. If we could get them off the road or get them into faster vehicles, let them know it's okay, they could drive the speed limit. No, I'm kidding.
I like those. That was different.
Yeah.
You're the first person to come up with those. I like that.
Also the people at the gym who wear shoes that are shaped like feet are irritating. I'd like to get rid of those shoes. And that's the thing. I mean, those shoes are supposed to be, they're state of the art. Everybody thinks, I'm wearing shoes that are shaped like feet. Look at me. I've got these shoes that are shaped like feet. I'm going to be in great shape. And they think they're better than regular shoes. But if they were better, then wouldn't we all be wearing freaking feet shoes? I mean, wouldn't we be going to weddings and funerals in patent leather feet shoes? I don't think so. But no, I mean, obviously there's the obvious answers. You want to get rid of war and hate and pollution and I think
anything that you can control.
I would love
through
to.
Your writing,
I would love to have a positive effect through my writing, and I love comedy that has subtle messages. And for one pilot that I'm working on, it's a dramedy about baseball. I played baseball from the time I was a little kid. I played a little bit at UCLA and played some semi-pro ball, and I still run a wood bat league team in Beverly Hills. I'm a huge Dodger fan. And this was about this thing is called Balls. Who knows if we'll ever make it? But it's really about not so much about the kids as it is about the adults who live vicariously through their kids. It's sort of Desperate Housewives meets Bad News Bears. It's an affluent community's Little League.
It.
And it really is about a father and a son. And the mother has disappeared. She was in the Betty Ford clinic where she disappeared. She ran off, and he's got to raise his son by himself. He played minor league ball. He wants to discourage his kid from playing ball because of the disappointment that baseball brought him. But he can't say no, and the kid is going to play. And it's really about how societies deal with people that are different than us, how we can improve our relationships on a social level, on a father-son level, and it has a lot of nice messages to it. And I in addition to just being, I think, very, very funny, and I think if you could kill two birds with one stone in that way, it's probably a bad metaphor and certainly a hackneyed metaphor, but that's and I love good.
I like the storyline.
Yeah, well, I like it too.
And it's good material for children. It almost sounds very Disney-esque.
Yeah, but it is not for children. It is sort of a AMC styled Showtime, HBO or network, later at night piece. Although deciding whether something is a half hour or an hour, it can sometimes be difficult, and I kind of use my management to guide me for that. I love drama also, although I don't write it. I love Mad Men. I think it's one of the greatest shows ever. I get excited every time it's on. I love Boardwalk Empire, The Killing. There are a lot of dramas that I do like. But as far as making improvements through writing, it's really just about getting people's mind off the horrible crap that's happening. For example, the blast in the Boston Marathon yesterday, which is just horrific.
Right.
And the anger and sadness that commingle within each and every one of us when we hear about something like that. To be able to make people laugh and get their minds off it for a while and remind them that there are other things out there that are, that can make us happy and bring a sense of peace or joy is really worth the while. And then to get paid for doing something like that, that's icing on the cake.
Right. Yeah. Take people on a little trip, a little bit of adventure.
Exactly.
Shows coming up. Anything coming up? I know we have a show together, Rat Pack Comedy, that I always host. This show's in Santa Monica, California, at the Promenade, at Westside Comedy Theater, June 2nd. And I know Steve is opening up a fantastic show of headliners that night. Any other shows that you want to mention?
Yeah, right, Tony. I just sort of, yeah, I just felt like talking like this now because, it's just it seems like the right way to talk, when you're talking about, shows that are coming up. And lately, I've been doing, the Comedy Store in Hollywood on Thursday night.
The Comedy
Right,
Store.
yeah. I think this Thursday night, in fact.
Place.
Yeah, it's an all right place, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this Thursday night I'm supposed to be doing Jodie Miller's show up in the belly room.
Okay.
I might go downstairs and do Matt Taylor's show in the main room afterwards.
Great.
I don't know.
Some drop-ins.
Yeah, a little bit of drop-in sort of action. And then I've been doing this Cafe Duna on Melrose near Cahuenga lately.
Yeah.
On Friday nights at 8:30, yeah. Yeah, it's been all right. The audiences, sometimes you get great energy. The way I see it is there's two different kinds of audiences, Tony, aren't there?
Which two kinds?
Well, there's the kind of sort of the obligatory audience. So yeah, we got to go see this guy or this bird. They've been trying to get us to come see the comedy for a while. We got to go there, so we got to make an appearance. But they're not really there to laugh. You know what I mean? They're sort of like zombies, and it's sort of like getting blood from a rock. And then
they're pissed off they're there.
Yeah, right. They're not happy to be there.
Spending money, and
yeah,
they're pissed off they're spending money.
And
they're pissed off there was traffic. They're pissed off it's during the week. They're pissed off they have their date.
Right, and then the savvy comics like ourselves make them the butt of our jokes, don't we?
Yeah, and then they're like, go ahead, make me laugh.
Right,
make me
yeah,
laugh.
don't like that. But then there are the young, sort of energetic audiences. Yeah, they're there to see their friends, maybe, you know what I mean? But they're there to laugh, Tony. Mm-hmm. And they love it, and the energy's great, and the room's packed. And so, yeah, the last 4 times I've done Duna, it's been 2 of those great audiences, and then 2 of the not-so-great audiences. Yeah. So what I do with the not-so-great audiences, I just pull down, Tony. I just unbutton. I just let them have it with my urine. Yeah, and it's... A lot of people don't like that. They frown upon that, but, you know, it sort of wakes people up, doesn't it?
Who cares about them anyway?
Yeah, and I'm
not doing this for them.
And I'm not British either.
I'm just up on stage doing this for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's all about me. Yeah, it's narcissism at its finest. At its finest, you know.
I'm just up there venting, so I don't have to pay money at the psychologist's office again.
I have to do both. Damn, you're lucky.
Get more stage time.
Get more stage time, yeah.
More stage time.
Yeah, the thing is,
less
like,
office time.
I rarely make my therapist. Over the years of therapy, I've rarely made anybody laugh, which is, you know, and I had to go to therapy for that. Not being able to make your therapist laugh. They've probably quietly sobbed.
That's funny.
They've probably quietly sobbed after I've left the office, but not a lot of laughter. Maybe the sobbing was due to the fact they realized I would never be able to pay them. I don't know. I'm not sure about
IOUs?
that.
Give them IOUs.
Yeah.
Funny.
Wow.
Well, we got through the interview without having the boat tear off the dock. The wind's been going the whole time at 35 to 70 mile an hour gusts.
I got to tell you, I could have used a little Dramamine here, man. It's been a while since I've been on a boat, and just the little. I got to tell you, it's
at the dock. He's funny. He's getting seasick at the dock.
This is how long it's been, and I got, you know, Natalie is missing. Bob, where's Natalie?
Well, Steve, are we going to get you back and get you out on the water maybe on the next show?
Oh yeah, man, that'd be cool.
You'll come back?
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't traumatized by any of this?
I'm really not that traumatized. I've just been focusing on this one bottle, I believe, of Tabasco that's sitting in your cabinet. Just focus on the Tabasco and the sriracha, the spicy sauces. That's what I do. You know,
focusing on the bottle.
Yeah, I did take one interview acting class, and they just said focus on the hot sauces that are nearby. And so that's what I do.
I remember that. Yeah. I can remember that. Yeah, he's just staring into the galley. We're actually on board. You're the first interview that's on board my yacht, which is a very old Columbia sailboat. vintage, and called Bella Notte.
Does that mean it's from Colombia?
No.
Oh,
not
it's
from Colombia.
What is Colombia the company that built
it?
Yeah,
they made toilet bowls and airplanes and a tub. They made old tubs.
and which is a bad.
And then they made
thing.
this big tub of a sailboat.
So they make boats and tubs. That's an interesting combination,
Isn't it?
And Bella Notte meaning if I'm not mistaken, the beautiful north.
Beautiful night.
The beautiful night.
Beautiful
shows
night.
how very little I know about stuff in general.
I when I do the crossing to Catalina, it's always at night. I don't like to burn the daylight. It's always like a lake and it's flat out there. So if you're going to motor anyway and not sail, which you can't really sail to Catalina unless you get past the point. And
I didn't realize
3
that.
hours in the wrong direction.
I didn't realize that.
So you're always motoring there. So I never like to waste the day. I have my whole day when I get there. So I go at night, and everybody always turns to each other and says, "Beautiful night. Beautiful night." So I must have heard "Beautiful Night" 300 times.
Oh, you named it. Oh, that's
finally,
interesting.
I just said, this boat's going to be called "Beautiful Night."
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But you don't get to see at nighttime. You don't get to see the dolphins and.
Oh no, we had 3,000, 4,000 dolphins escort us the last trip.
Oh wow!
At the night, so you see them breaking the water, and then
With
you're
the
like, "Oh my God, that's-
with the phosphorescence.
Yeah,
Oh, see, oh wow! I love that stuff.
in the waves.
Yeah,
so
wow. That's
Almost
pretty
every
amazing.
time I go, I will have at least an hour to 2 hours of the 6-hour trip where I'm being escorted by the dolphins. Which
Now wait,
is really nice.
it's a 6-hour trip from here to Catalina.
6 hours, yeah, by sailboat motoring. Speedboats
Really?
can do an hour and a half.
The SS Catalina, how that boat that takes off from.
Catalina Fire?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they do an hour and a half, and those are fast speedboats that do 20
Right.
to 30 knots.
6 hours. Wow, that's great. And what do you do when you get to Catalina?
It's almost 30 miles.
What do you do when you get to
From
Catalina? Is it really?
Yeah.
So what do you do when you get there?
No joke. I go to the other side of the island. I'm either at Cat Harbor or at the Isthmus, 2 harbors. I don't go to Avalon. Avalon's like, why don't I just take my boat out at Universal City Walk or 3rd Street Promenade to me, you know? It's loads of restaurants and boutiques and golf courses, and I'm not into that. So I go to the Isthmus. It is just beautiful. It's like anchoring out at the French Riviera.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
cliffs, no houses on them.
That sounds
All the
nice.
endangered species. There's
Wow.
one nightclub restaurant, Doug's Reef, that's it. And one dive shop and a lot of hiking. And
I've heard of Doug Reef, but 6 hours motor. So you're like the Mexican gardener of boatsmen, of sailors.
Oh, yeah.
On at night.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
oh yeah. As soon as you pull out, especially if you have people who've only been on motorboats with you, they're like, "Okay, you gonna open it up now?" I'm like, "Open it up. This is it. This is it. 6 knots. That's all you
6
do.
knots, wow.
Sailboat, 6 knots."
So-
unless you're racing like Steve's dad, which would be probably maybe 8 to 10 knots, you can get it up to.
So what do you do? Like you
Whereas-
leave at like 8 o'clock at night and get there by 2 in the morning, or you leave at.
I leave at midnight
Oh,
so
yeah.
that I'm coming up on the island. I feel like Christopher Columbus with the island in front of me,
Yeah.
and I wake everybody up. I start banging, "Come on out!"
So when do you sleep?
And I don't. I do the 6 hours at the wheel myself. Everybody else napping. I sleep when I get there for an hour or two,
Oh wow,
and I feel great.
that's amazing.
I also have this ritual. You need to make a trip to Catalina.
All right, okay. All right.
I have a ritual where I have breakfast ready. Not breakfast, breakfast. So I always have some Becks.
I knew
have
that
it
was
on
coming.
ice right by
Yeah.
the helm. When I wake everybody up and the sun's coming up and the
Yeah.
island's in front of me, I yell breakfast. And we have we all have a Beck's whether you like it or not, because you have
That's
to drink
interesting.
one.
Yeah.
as the captain says. Otherwise, you swim home.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to do this.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. And Steve's gonna come back.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for today.
All right. Well, this was fun.
Fun. I'm glad I had you.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't say a lot of bad words. Maybe a few, but I'm really glad that I feel one coming on. Hang on. All right. No, I got it's.
You gonna let it go? This is gonna get a clean rating. You know
Yeah.
that.
All right. That's
Okay,
good.
This is getting a clean rating. Not
All right.
explicit like the last two guys.
All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I am a Disney writer after all.
Yeah. Yeah. This was very Disney-esque. This show. It was clean. All right. Well, it's been great having you, Steve. Catch him at the Rat Pack show June 2nd. Santa Monica, California at Westside. Any particular websites or anything they could find you? Just Google you and they could find some stuff somehow?
Let's see, maybe the public record for bankruptcy.
Don't Google them.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Yeah, not a big website guy. I mean, maybe one of these days I'll go out and get my own website and But,
well, you do shows with me, and they could check out Red Pack Comedy on Facebook for that June 2nd show.
Yeah, and go YouTube Big Train Jockeys, everybody. Big Train Jockeys. Just trust me. And
I could just
and just equate me with that somehow, and then that'll be good.
Great.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Steve Freeman. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And you've been live and on board with Tony Milazzo and Steve Freeman.
This show has been produced by Tony Milazzo, Alyssa Inferna, and David Ringwald. If you'd like to be on board, check us out on Facebook at Tony Milazzo Entertainer, tweet us at Tony Milazzo Live, or snail mail us at P.O. Box 10074, Marina Del Rey, California, 90295.